Good evening. I call the Charlottesville City Council meeting to order. Can we have a motion to certify the closed session?
Yes, sir. So I move that this council certify by a recorded vote that to the best of each council member's knowledge, only public business matters lawfully exempted from the open meeting requirements of the Virginia Freedom of Information Act and identified in the motion convening the closed session were heard, discussed, or considered in the closed session.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Can we vote? Thank you. We'll now have a moment of silence. Thank you. Are there any announcements?
Yes. Sorry, I lost my place. Give me just 1 second. I would like to recap a press release that the city schools put out about the renaming of two of the schools and the reopening of K-Tech, along with the celebration times and dates for when that's going to happen. So the first is, the first thing that we want to note is on September 8th, that is the Charlottesville 12 Day, which was a previous proclamation by the city celebrating the 12 students who first integrated city schools. And then on September 9th at 10 a.m., we will celebrate the name change from Venable to Trailblazer Elementary School. On Wednesday, September 25th at 8:30 a.m., we'll celebrate the renaming of Clark to Summit Elementary School. And then on Saturday, September 28th, from 10 to 1, there will be an open house at K-Tech celebrating the center's 50th anniversary. Again, this was a press release from the city schools, so you'll be able to find that on the website if you want to double check those dates and times. Thank you.
Yeah, schools are busy. Got a lot going on. Any other announcements? So we have several.
Sorry, just real quick, just a reminder that the deadline to apply for the Charlottesville Homeowner Assistance Program, or CHAP, is this Friday, September 6th, to provide real estate tax relief for qualified City of Charlottesville homeowners, and you can find more information through the Commissioner of Revenue or online on charlottesville.gov.
So we have several recognitions and proclamations. So I'm going to come down there to honor the boys varsity tennis team and soccer team and track. So I'll start off with the tennis team. So can you please come up? So this is a certificate of achievement from the Charlottesville City Council to the 23-24 Charlottesville Boys Varsity Tennis Team in recognition of the outstanding season and program's first state championship in 37 years.
Not much, huh?
So, does someone want to say anything for you?
I would love to, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, first off, thank you for the recognition for this wonderful team. You know, like you said, it's been a long time for tennis to win a state championship, and it was so much fun to watch this group come together, compete in tennis, and really form bonds that are going to last a lifetime. It's funny, I can't keep them off the tennis court over there at Charlottesville High School. They are there Monday through Sunday, playing as much as they can. But they are a wonderful group of young men that, and led by Coach Neal here, has done a wonderful job And it's just been a pleasure to watch them grow. Last year, was kind of surprised to win the state championship with, I think 5 of the top 6 players were all underclassmen, either freshmen or sophomores. So I know they have big goals for this year as well, but I want to continue to tell them, enjoy the process, enjoy the journey. Don't worry about the titles. Think more about how do we get better, how do we continue to grow these bonds that you guys are making, and enjoy it. So thank you for the recognition. We appreciate it.
Go Black Knights. We will now have the boys varsity soccer team. So this certificate of achievement is for the 23-24 Charlottesville boys varsity soccer team in recognition of the outstanding season in winning the Virginia Class 4 state championship.
I'd love to say something again. Well, first off, again, thank you for the recognition for this wonderful team. Obviously, we're missing a few of the players tonight. It is club soccer season, so they don't win state championships by accident. They're unfortunately they all had practice tonight, but we definitely were able to get the coaches out here. Coach Braun has been a player at Charlottesville, won a state championship there at Charlottesville High School, and now this is his second as a coach. So he's been part of the 3 state championships that we have at Charlottesville High School. And Coach Manning has been around and is a teacher at Charlottesville High School. And they just, you watch them pour themselves into these players and these kids, and it's a wonderful thing to see. If you haven't been to one of our Charlottesville High School soccer games, it is a true encapsulation of what our community is and what it looks like. It is, they get kids from all kinds of backgrounds, lots of diversity on that team, and they get them by the end of the season playing together as one, and it's just an amazing thing to see, and it's something that we celebrate here at Charlottesville and in Charlottesville High School as part of our community.
Thank you
thank
so
you guys.
much. We will now have Ms. Pearson come up. This is in recognition for the 23-24 state championship, in recognition of the 1600 meters Class A meet. You won. Congratulations.
Speak one more time.
Yeah.
Not only did Elena win the 1600 in the outdoor, but also in the indoor season, she was also the state champion. So she is a 2-time state champion last year. Her remarkable time of 4:49.12 in the outdoor championship she won by more than 9 seconds over the second in that race. So not only is she winning, she is dominating. And she's only a junior this year. So she did that as a sophomore.
I know that every time I turned around, she was in the paper. You were riding.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Congratulations. We have a proclamation, and I know that the team probably wanted to stay here for the whole time, but so we have a couple of proclamations, and then we'll have a little break. Is there anyone here from the Day of Democracy? Is someone here? Okay. So we have a proclamation for the International Day of Democracy, September the 15th, 2024, whereas the United Nations observed the 15th of September as the International Day of Democracy with the purpose of promoting the principles of democracy and commemorating the day in a manner that contributes to the raising public awareness of universal human rights, and whereas political and public participation rights are crucial to the advancement of all human rights and essential for the democratic governance, rule of law, social inclusion, economic development, and the empowerment of individuals and groups to eliminate discrimination and marginalization peaceful assembly and association, freedom of opinion and expression, and access to information and education. Therefore, be it proclaimed that City of Charlottesville Council recognizes and celebrates the 15th of September 2024 as International Day of Democracy, to remind us of and exhort the continual protection of the governing principles by which the freely expressed will be the principles in exercise and respected in the general country, and is signed this day by the Mayor Juan Diego Wade. So,
thank you, Mayor Wade.
thank you.
I'm Kirk Bowers.
Nice to
On
meet you.
behalf of the Coalition to Preserve and Protect Democracy, we thank the city very much for what you are doing. And at this time in our history, I think it's very important.
Yes.
We stand up and talk about democracy. And, you know, we believe that we have to preserve and protect it. We've taken it for granted for many years, and now it's time to talk about it, promote democracy, and that's what we're doing.
Not only talk about it, but do it.
Yep, exactly, and we invite everybody to come to our event, which is on Saturday, May 14th, at Market Street Park, from 12 to noon. We have some great speakers lined up.
Sir, do you mind saying that again into the microphone so the people listening?
Oh,
at
I'm
home
sorry,
can hear?
yes.
Thanks.
We're having an event on Saturday, the 14th, Market Street Park, and we have a great lineup of speakers: Senator Creed Deeds, Delegate Toscano, Delegate Carlson, and others will be speaking, and you'll be hearing music. And we're there to promote and celebrate democracy. We've heard a lot of negativity about it for many years. Well, now's the time to turn around and promote it. So that's what we're doing. And this is going to continue probably for several years, and I believe this is the second one you all have awarded. Thank you again.
Thank you so much, sir. Our last proclamation is for the continued friendship, respect, and solidarity with our sister city of Besançon, and to also the 80-year anniversary of the deliberation of the city. And I'd just like to add that I'm going to visit them actually starting tomorrow, and while I'm there to talk and meet with individuals about our sister city agreement and to commemorate the 80-year of the liberation of the city by the United States. I also will get an opportunity to look at what they're doing with transit, the youth programs that they have there, the various planning things that they have there, their incredible environmental and sustainability programs that they have, and also the partnership that they have with PVCC and their language center. So looking forward to going to represent the city. We'll be busy, and I'll learn a lot and have a lot to bring back. But this proclamation states that whereas on September 8th, 2024 marks the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Besançon, France by the combined forces in the United States 3rd Infantry Division, and whereas the French and American residents of Besançon and Charlottesville have continued to combine forces and enthusiastically cultivated solid, durable, and enjoyable ties over the years, and whereas these ties have been cemented in the proclamation of friendship signed on September 8th, 2004, followed by establishment of a formal sister city relationship in October of 2006. And whereas our lives have been significantly enhanced by the cultural, educational, and economic exchanges between the residents of Besançon and Charlottesville, now therefore be it resolved that the City of Charlottesville City Council sends warm greetings to our sister city citizens on the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Besançon, and be it further resolved that as we celebrate and expand our common pursuits of friendship and respect for diversity and inclusion, we pledge to continue wholeheartedly nurture and innovate even more exchanges between the citizens of Besançon and Charlottesville. Signed today. So we have
Thank you, sir. Good evening. My name is Edward Herring, and I am the chairman of the Charlottesville Sister City Commission. And Best in Song, which is one of our most successful relationships, is only one of 5 cities that we work with. We began 2 years ago a relationship with a city called Huehuetenango in Guatemala, and they came to visit us last year. We have a very old relationship with the city of Poggio in Italy, and we'll be starting some sort of exchanges between our students in Poggio in the coming year. We expect to have a delegation from Poggio come in July of next year. And then we have our ongoing work with Winneba in Ghana, working with the Winneba Ghana Foundation, where there are usually twice annual trips from Charlottesville to Ghana. And then we have one more, a city called Plevin in Bulgaria. We had not been very active with Plevin, but Plevin has requested to rebuild our relationship, and so we're beginning to do that. I encourage everyone to seek out information around the Charlottesville Sister City Commission. We have a website, we have a Facebook page where we post pictures. Certainly the picture from tonight will go on the Facebook page. And we encourage you to participate in events when you hear that we have visitors coming. So thank you, and I will guard the proclamation on behalf of the commissioners. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Edward. I appreciate all your work on this.
Safe travels to you, sir.
Thank you so much.
Bon voyage.
Yes. Thank you. I won't cause an international incident. So if the students wanted to leave or people wanted to leave, you can leave now, but you're welcome to stay. We're now at the time for community matters. There are 8 pre-registered speakers, leaving 8 slots for additional speakers from the community. Each speaker will have up to 3 minutes to speak. And we'll now have our first speaker. And Sally, you can come up. You can, wait till our students leave, but you're first. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My name is Sally Hudson. I live on River Road. I served Charlottesville in the Virginia House of Delegates for 4 years and authored the ranked choice voting statute that you are considering implementing today. I want to thank all of you for the careful attention that you have paid to this question. And I know that because the measure has been moved from your consent agenda to your action items for the evening, that we expect a robust discussion. And I wanted to use my time to frame that discussion in some of the recent history that led us to today. In 2020, when I drafted that bill, we intentionally left some of the implementation details to the State Board of Elections so that those details could be drafted by the Commonwealth's top election law experts in an open public process that included partners in election law from across the country. In 2021, the State Board conducted that process, and comments were submitted by some of the top election leaders in the United States, including academics at top law schools, the Campaign Legal Center, the National Ranked Choice Voting Resource Center, and local electoral board members like our own Jim Nix. Those regulations were then refreshed in 2023 after Arlington held Virginia's first successful local ranked choice primary. That same spring, our local Democratic Party decided to formally pass a resolution requesting your permission to follow in Arlington's footsteps, but they learned at that time that Charlottesville wasn't quite ready for ranked choice voting because we get our election systems from a different vendor, and so our registrar had some work to do to prepare for that step. But 6 months ago, our registrar and our bipartisan local electoral board came to these chambers and presented to all of you that those technical questions had been resolved and that they could conduct a ranked choice voting election with your permission. Then 2 weeks ago, the registrar came back and affirmed again that there are no technical barriers to adopting ranked choice voting in Charlottesville, and that doing so would align with City Council's strategic vision, in part because it encourages diversity in democracy and civility in our politics, which I know is something that all of us support. That measure received your unanimous support 2 weeks ago and is also supported by some of the top election rights organizations in Virginia, including the League of Women Voters, Veterans for All Voters, our own local Indivisible chapter, and Upvote Virginia, which used to do work as One Virginia 2021 when I had the proud opportunity to join them in ending partisan gerrymandering in Virginia. I say all of this to say that a lot of people have done a lot of careful work over the last 4 years to get us where we are today. To use the popular parlance of our time, this ordinance did not just fall out of a coconut tree. We exist in the context of all that came before us, and in Charlottesville, that context goes back centuries. I hope that you will join the 3 founding fathers emblazoned on this building in doing your part to build a more perfect union today.
Thank you. Thank you, Sal. The next speaker is Jen Flesher.
Good evening. I'm Jen
Evening.
Fleischer. I live in the Belmont neighborhood on Elliott Avenue. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you tonight about ranked choice voting. I noticed the topic was no longer on the consent agenda, and I understand there were ongoing deliberations. I want to express my appreciation for the thoughtful approach you're taking on this topic. I understand that Council has historically paid outside consultants to offer additional advice and coordinate lengthy review processes in these instances. However, in this case, I believe we already have the expert guidance we need. Our city registrar, whom we trust and have already paid in tax dollars, has given a clear recommendation in support of ranked choice voting in consultation with our bipartisan electorate board. In her memo to Council, she wrote, the Electoral Board and Registrar of the City of Charlottesville have studied the potential benefits of ranked choice voting, including review of the successful conduct of a ranked choice voting election in June 2023 for the nomination of the members of Arlington, Virginia's Board of Supervisors, and determined that there are no technical barriers to conducting the 2025 Charlottesville City Council primary using the same ranked choice voting process. She went on to say, this change aligns with the City Council's vision, strategic plan, and commitment to encourage civility in politics, more diverse candidates for office, and broader participation in elections. The Registrar and Electoral Board first presented their assessment to Council and the public back in February. In the 6 months since, Council raised no public concerns about the information they presented. We elected you to make informed decisions, and I believe you have the right people and information in place to help you do so. If additional input is needed, I'd suggest seeking it directly from our residents. Although there may be a small expense to create a public input form or similar online, it would allow city residents to share their thoughts and experiences with ranked choice voting, similar to what Arlington did. This approach would provide valuable community insights without the need for a more costly process that is likely to produce the same general outcome. Thank you.
Thank you. The next speaker is Alexandra McGee.
Good evening, councilors.
Good evening.
My name is Alex McGee, and I've lived in Central Virginia for about 30 years, and I've been a homeowner in Belmont for 11 years, living on Alta Vista Avenue. And I thank you for giving your time and energy as public servants. The first topic that I want to address tonight is to encourage you to support ranked choice voting. Not only is it a more effective and representative method, but the very act of implementing it here in Charlottesville will be an educational model for other locations and state elections. The second topic that I'd like to talk about is tender, but I think wise, and that is to anticipate that there may be violence after the election in November. The reason that that is wise to anticipate is so that we can be coordinated instead of chaotic, so that we can be responsive instead of reactive. History shows that when people are trying to defend democracy, but they do it in a splintered manner, that they are much less successful. Some of us in Charlottesville have begun conversations with each other about how local organizations can be collaborative ahead of time and understand wise strategies in case we need to do peaceful, nonviolent action, or in case we need to take actions to support government officials whose job is to implement democratic structures. Therefore, I am asking you to use your role as city councilors to anticipate what may be wise. If you are invited to attend trainings in nonviolent strategic action, please say yes. If you are asked to attend meetings of local leaders to be collaborative and thoughtful ahead of time, please say yes. If you hear of other local leaders who are trying to collaborate ahead of time, please help us do so. Charlottesville is rich with many creative people, and sometimes, unfortunately, they don't consult with each other. We can be more wise. And I'm just going to look at my notes and see if there's anything else I wanted to say. Again, my name is Alex McGee, and I thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. McGee. The next speaker is Nicholas Cole.
Hey, good evening, City Council.
Good evening.
I swear that wasn't me. Thank you so much for having me, and thanks for your service on City Council. As a Navy veteran and Naval Academy graduate who swore to defend the Constitution, I'm deeply inspired by your commitment to strengthening our local democracy. By adopting ranked choice voting, you're ushering in a new era of voter empowerment. This system opens up our elections, giving every eligible voter the freedom to truly express their preferences without fears of wasting their vote. It's a powerful affirmation of trust in the wisdom of our citizens. RCV ensures that our elected officials will have the backing of a true majority that fosters a stronger connection between the government and the governed, creating a more representative and responsive democracy. It's a step towards a united community where every voice is heard and valued. With this decision, you're nurturing an environment of vibrant electoral engagement. RCV encourages candidates to reach out to a broader spectrum of voters, promoting more civil campaigns and substantive policy discussions. This enriches our political discourse and strengthens the fabric of our community. This move represents a bold commitment to fairness, to expanding voter choice, and to reinforcing the foundations of our local democracy. It's a system that not only reflects but amplifies the will of the people, encouraging collaboration and consensus building in governance. As someone who served our nation, I'm filled with pride to see our city taking this momentous step to honor and fortify our democratic principles. How beautiful it is that we can bring RCV into Charlottesville in anticipation of Democracy Day. Your decision truly puts voters first and sets an inspiring example for communities across the nation. Thank you for your leadership and vision in bringing it to our city, and this decision will serve our community well for generations to come. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cole, and thank you again for your service to the country, sir. The next speaker is Joshua.
Evening, everyone. My name is Josh Thronberg. I am a Charlottesville resident, live in the Fry Spring neighborhood, but I'm here tonight because I am the co-chair of the Charlottesville Democratic Committee. The Seville Dems have been talking about RCV for the last couple of years, and on our January 9th, 2023 meeting, we had significant discussion, at the end of which member Dave Chapman brought forward a motion, seconded by member Meredith Richards, that, quote, said, "The Charlottesville Democratic Committee recommends the adoption of ranked choice voting in all city council primary and general elections." The result of the vote was not close. 87% of the Charlottesville Democratic Committee voted to recommend that ranked choice voting be used in all city council elections. And our committee is grateful that you all have taken up this conversation, and we urge you to move forward in adopting ranked choice voting. Thank you.
Thank you, Joshua. The next speaker is Brett Jones.
Thank you, Mayor Wade, councilors. Thanks you for your service here as well. I know we've already had many speakers speak eloquently about many, and they've raised many fine points about the value of ranked choice voting. So rather than reiterate those, I'll just try to add 2 complementary points. First of which is that one thing that comes up here in the discussion of Charlottesville is the single transferable vote. I've spoken to you before. You might remember I'm a machine learning engineer. So I'm a data guy, so I thought I could say a few words about the single transferable vote. When we do our public events, everybody likes to come and you see the single winner, and it's a cookie runoff, and the eight-year-olds are the tie-breaking votes, and it's very cute. It's off the charts. But why would we even bother with anything but the single winner? Well, there must be a reason that all the election geeks and the numbers people like this, and in fact it is by design. If you remember that this single transferable vote is used only for multi-seat elections for legislatures and council. And we've all seen legislatures that have been warped by the abuse of the electoral process. Every 10 years are gerrymandered by the party in power, putting their fingers on the scale and distorting elections. Well, from the mathematical point of view, single transferable vote is the opposite of gerrymandering. Single transferable vote aims for the gold standard of representative democracy, proportional representation. That's where all citizens feel like they have a voice. And we have some of that. We go some of the way here with our at-large seat model, where you get different voices. It's hard to carve people up with those type of shenanigans, but we're only halfway there. Because of the way we count, there's still an implicit blockade. You might have a large minority group. You could have 45% of the voters get shut out of any representation on council in a multi-seat council. So single transferable vote gives representation of these large minority groups. It gives them a voice, but no more voice than they deserve. It's impossible for small groups to take more power than they actually represent. And this is the closest that we can get to the proportional representation gold standard. So that puts trust and legitimacy in the government. Zooming out, I also just wanted to say again that we're part of the fabric of the bigger picture here. There could hardly be a year that ranked choice voting could help people more when you look at the types of candidates that are coming out of the primaries and the dissatisfaction with two major candidates. But there's a lot of people that feel like the system is rigged, and I was one of those people. My enthusiasm for ranked choice voting was supercharged by Dr. Cameron Webb when he was running. And he gave me a book. I'll just point out 2 points there. That in the politics industry book, they say that the donors and primary voters have all the power in our current system. And the second is that in the U.S., the laboratory of democracy is in the states. And in our state, thanks to Sally Hudson and others, that front line comes right through this room right here. And I'm asking you to help join in the cause to change the country one state at a time, one municipality at a time. So closing RCV is one of the few things that we can actually do that makes a difference. The single transferable vote is the opposite of gerrymandering. And RCV is right on principle, it's right in practice, and I hope you'll make a choice to endorse it. Thank you.
Thank you. Kevin?
Hi.
Hello.
My name's Kevin Cox. I live at 311 Fairway Avenue in the city. The city has a stated goal of decreasing commuter traffic by 50% by 2030. So you better get started building the crosswalks. But that's not what's happening. The crosswalks are not getting built. Instead, they're getting removed. I'd like to talk about 3 particular locations where crosswalks recently have been removed and where the reinstallation may never occur, or it will be years down the line. The first one is at the intersection of Barracks Road and Hessian Road. That's near the Meadowbrook Shopping Center. At that marked crosswalk, before the road was paved, there is a bus stop, okay? The road was recently repaved and the marked crosswalk was not replaced. There is no intention of replacing that marked crosswalk until the sidewalk on the north side of Barracks Road is paved, which is years away. It's right now, that project is in the right-of-way acquisition phase, so it's going to be a long time before that sidewalk is built. Yet right now, people use that crosswalk every day to get from the neighborhood to shopping to the bus stop. They use it. The staff has claimed that this is an ADA issue. They're wrong. It's not. We've sent you both, all of you, the relevant sections of the law. The ADA does not prohibit the installation of a marked crosswalk. There was a marked crosswalk there. It was put there sometime between 2008 and 2012. Why was it ADA compliant then, and why was it put in? Why did the city staff see a need for that crosswalk? I would like to see, and I'm asking you for a copy of the engineering study that was used to justify the placement of that crosswalk at Hessian Road and Barracks Road. And Mr. Sanders, I would like an estimate of the cost first. The second intersection. Second and third are at Little High and 10th Street, and also at 9th and Market. Crosswalks, curb ramps have all been removed. And there was no plan to reinstall them until the public started hollering about it. The one at 10th and Little High should never have been done like it was. Improperly set up plans were approved by the staff. It was constructed. It should have been done by Faulkner Construction. Their plans were approved. Now the fix is going to have to be paid for from somewhere else, from taxpayers' money. The same is true of the crosswalk on the north side of the intersection at 9th and Market. That was removed as part of the Belmont Bridge plans. It should never have been removed. Now it's going to be reinstalled in a few years. So what are people supposed to do in a few years? The hike from the neighborhoods to get to the shopping center is very long without that marked crosswalk. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Thank you for your concern for the pedestrians. The next speaker is Andrew Shelton.
Hey, how y'all doing this evening?
Good.
Andrew Shelton, lifelong city resident, live just down Old Lynchburg Road. And I'm here to ask y'all to vote in favor of ranked choice voting. I am unaffiliated with any of the groups in this room representing it, but was very excited to see, a year or two ago that was something that was being seriously considered. I had first encountered the very concept of it maybe 20 years ago when I was lucky enough to take a college seminar that discussed different voting methods, and it really struck me at the time how unrepresentative and difficult just our typical voting system is when it comes to getting a broader cross-section of the population that's able to meaningfully participate in politics. And so I was a little disappointed to see that it had been moved off the consent agenda, because that suggests to me that there's some discussion amongst y'all, and I appreciate that, but would also very much like to reiterate what Sally first discussed in terms of the number of eyes that had been on this throughout the entire process, the number of very intelligent legal minds that had poured over this and had the opportunity to figure out any hurdles that might be easy to spot looking at it after the fact a couple of years down the line. And so I would like to ask y'all to please trust the work that those folks did and not attempt to second guess little things here and there at this point in the process. There's a lot of momentum to it. I think it's something the city is very interested in, and I hope that we can get it done. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Shelton. That concludes the 8 pre-registered speakers. We have an opportunity for 8 speakers to speak. So anyone like to speak, please raise your hand. Take your time.
Well, I usually don't have a script, but today I wrote something that's dear to my heart. My name is Gloria Beard, and I'm a citizen of Charlottesville and also a member of the People's Coalition. I'm here to speak about the homelessness in this town. And I was reading a paper, or either online, about it's another place, the Cavalier Crossing, is getting ready to close. It bothers me. There's one thing we should never have is homelessness. People without food and clothing. But it's happening. Now I want to know, how in the world are people coming into our city and buying a property, taking affordable housing away from people that don't make much money in this town? And this is something I know. I worked here, retired here. And back then, there wasn't much been made, but I made it, and I raised 3 kids. And then some people are not homeless just because circumstances happen to people. And believe me, it could happen to any one of us in this room, today or tomorrow. We could become homeless. So now that they're gonna close down 144 units, that's affordable for some people, depending on where they're working and how much money they make. To make it luxury? How much is luxury? $1,200? $1,800? Like the dairy. That raised our taxes in my neighborhood, and I'm a homeowner. So why are people coming in here and being allowed to do this to people? This is A lot of people was raised here, born here, some of them just coming here. What is happening? Somebody's got to have a heart. Michael, I love you. You do have a heart, I know that. But he can't do it by himself. It takes a whole group to change things. Because we shouldn't have all these people coming in here in Charlottesville with money. When they see all these homeless people laying out like that on them, like I just seen somebody was hanging out some clothes down here tonight. That's not how I said it should look. This is a rich place. I mean, Albemarle County, Charlottesville, people have money here. I don't, but hey, I made it work for me, you know, because I'm a survivor, praise God. So y'all have to think about what's going on. Don't let these people come and put people in the street. That looks horrible. It's like you don't care about a human. It's not about the money. You're supposed to care about people. And it breaks my heart. I've been trying to help another couple since last week, trying to find housing. And 2 children are involved. Last time was a baby, and she called me her grandmother. They come to me. I can't do but so much. It takes this whole group to make it better for people. I'm so sad. I'm really sad. Because y'all can make it work. Y'all got the power. I don't. I just got a mouth to speak. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Beard. Who else would like to speak? Dee Dee?
This thing's going to come apart. Good evening, Dee Dee Smith, and I'm actually here tonight as the chair of the Historic Resources Committee, in case you haven't gotten enough history yet. I know at your 4 o'clock meeting you heard 2 great pieces that included history, but I am here to formally present you with the new Historic Charlottesville Walking Tour. I'm pretty sure you all have already gotten a copy, but I did want the public to know as well. This is brand new, and it was a long time coming because we started shortly before COVID, and you know what happens. But we hope, and our goal was that this brochure will tell the much fuller story of Charlottesville's history, which is a very, very long history. And we're proud as a committee at what outreach we were able to do over all of these years. Everything from representatives of the Monacan Nation to people with lived experience, as well as the committees of the city, including, the Bike Ped Committee, and just really, trying to find a really diverse group of folks to read the drafts. We got a great input, and it really did change the brochure a lot. And we also have quite an impressive bit of experience and expertise on this committee itself. Anyway, it all went into this brochure, and while it was primarily the work of the volunteer committee, Historic Resources Committee, we could not have done it without staff. Thank you to Jeff Werner and the various assistants that have been here over the course of doing this brochure, who have been invaluable. It covers 4 distinct geographic areas: Court Square, Downtown Mall, Market Square, and Vinegar Hill. And I hope that I hope everybody will get a chance to see it. It is online as well, and give us feedback. We did do a limited run of it so that we could get feedback. And we do encourage also that people who take it and use it will read the short narratives that come with each of the geographic areas, because that will definitely enhance your walking tour. And what do I want to say? Whatever, we really hope that you enjoy it. May I put it right up here?
And can you tell people where the best place to give feedback?
Oh, yes, thank you.
A hard copy.
The hard copy. The hard copies are distributed throughout City Hall. They're at the Regional Library. That Historical Society has quite a nice batch of them. We have distributed, it is a limited run, but we distributed to local hotels and some of the stores that have asked for them, as well as the Heritage Center and sort of the obvious historical places.
Quickly, where online?
And online, it actually, I'm going to read you the, it is the charlottesville.gov/walking tour map.
Thank you so much, Dee,
Thank you.
and for your hard work on that. We have an opportunity for 6 more speakers. Cindy?
Hi, good evening. I live down the street on Market. I spoke last time at the last meeting about ranked choice voting. And a few points I have are, well, one is why I got interested in ranked choice voting. I was a civics teacher at the time and was working on the anti-gerrymandering legislation. And it was so nice to go to the polls and talk to people about the anti-gerrymandering legislation because it was nonpartisan. Everybody wanted to talk to me. Like, they were interested. I wasn't evil. I wasn't good. I was just like there for the voters. And I think ranked choice voting is the same thing. It is something for the voters. It's nonpartisan. All political parties have gone in support of it. I also think, like I talked about at the last meeting, doing this, using ranked choice voting with my 5th and 6th graders. And there were never complaints. Like, typically in any 5th and 6th grade classroom, you're going to have complaints whenever you, even if you do like a simple vote. But the kids saw how the process worked and they felt that they were heard, which I think is really important. And I think to get started with ranked choice voting, I would start with kids. I would start in the schools. And they're going to be like some of the biggest advocates. It makes sense to them. And I also think it could be an opportunity to bust one of the things where adults baffle kids. Like, there are many things that adults do that kids find baffling. And when we do ranked choice voting and study different voting systems, the kids would always ask, why don't we do this? This makes sense. And so I think Charlottesville could set a precedent for making sense and making sure voters are really heard and their votes count. Thank you.
Thank you. The young lady. Yes.
Good evening. My name is Liza Vance, and thank you, Mayor Wade and City Council, for your commitment to Charlottesville. I recently moved to the downtown mall, so I live above the mall, and after 4 years at UVA and a couple years in my 20s here, I've never seen Charlottesville like this, and I got back, and my heart is also aching because of what used to be Robert E. Lee Park is now taken over by there's people's belongings, there's people living there, there's grocery carts full of plastic bags and other things. And a week ago on Sunday, on Sunday morning I walked out and Water Street had trash lined up. There were trash bags on Water Street that were on a Sunday morning. There were people there. I've noticed there's people living underneath store, like above the other stores, and then they're living where they can like have shelter. And it's very, very disturbing to me for our human dignity, for our cleanliness. If we care about our city and we care and we put cleanliness and we face this homelessness thing, which I know is a problem across the country, but if we, this is a wonderful town. Charlottesville is an excellent city. It's a beautiful Virginia mountain town and full of highly intelligent and creative and thoughtful people. And I'm wondering, as a citizen, is there any middle ground where concerned citizens can come together, citizens who aren't involved in politics? Is there a way that citizens can work together or form a committee where people who do care, who live here, could help do something? Because it matters deeply to me, especially living on the downtown mall, and it shows the visitors here that we care about cleanliness, we care about our town, we care about people. We don't want people to be living in the streets and on the mall. And I also noticed when I lived here in my 20s, there was a construction on a hotel. It's still in construction. I mean, that was maybe 15 years ago. There's a hotel, some building is above the mall. Is that a building? Is there any space downtown that can be purchased or raise funds can we build a shelter for them? I mean, I know nothing about politics and I know nothing about this, but I live here and I care about this place, and I would love to be able to come together with concerned citizens and with people on the city council and people whoever, whatever we can do. It seems to be a big problem, and I know it's a crisis across the country, but I appreciate y'all's time, what you do for the city. And people have told me, I went to the police station, I said to the officer, he said, but if people don't complain, then we don't worry about it. And he said, if you want to speak with city council, then speak with them. But I mean, if there's any way that we can do anything, I'd like to help pick up trash around the mall, because it's everywhere. There's trash strewn everywhere. Let's figure out how to make this city beautiful, because it's awesome. And we gotta value it and keep it clean, and get these people home to live in. All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, and thank you and Ms. Beard for bringing this to our attention. We do get a lot of emails and comments on this. I usually don't respond because we have a busy agenda, but I just want to let you know and others in the community that we are working on a solution, and we're in delicate discussions now, and hopefully in the near future we'll be able to let the public know how they can help, how they can just, help us with this effort. It is a national problem, very acute here in Charlottesville, and we're aware of it. So thank you all.
Sorry, just very quickly, I know there's been a lot of work internally among staff looking at actions we can take to help the problem in terms of a permanent year-round shelter, permanent supportive housing. Is there a ballpark timeline for when that may be presented to the public, kind of some of the solutions we're exploring?
I'll give that in my report.
Okay, thank you.
We have an opportunity for 4 more speakers. Anyone else like to speak? Yes, sir.
Hello, Council. My name is Mo Vandesample. I live on Cabell Avenue. For what it's worth, I say that we just ratchet the property taxes on that hotel up by like $50K a year until they do something with it. No, I wanted to talk briefly about the transferability aspect of the single transferable vote scheme that you're considering today. There were some concerns raised in the last meeting about whether it's fair that the excess votes of a winning candidate are transferred to the voters' second choices. And I want to be clear, I did poli-sci in my undergrad. I do a lot of political economy now. That is an absolutely necessary part of RCV in multi-member elections, especially in the context of Charlottesville. If you imagine a race where we're electing 2 council members and there are 3 people running, let's just say 2 Democrats and 1 Republican, let's imagine nearly every Democrat in town prefers the first Dem to the second. Maybe that guy's a carpetbagger or something. Who knows? So, the votes come in, and the first Democrat gets 80%, the second gets 5%, and the Republican gets 15%. If you don't let the excess votes from the first Democrat transfer onto that second one, you're going to get a 50-50 split in representation, even though this was an 85% landslide victory for Democrats as a whole. In a head-to-head race, the carpetbagger in this scenario would have won, but because the first Dem plays spoiler, we would get an overall less representative outcome. Now, obviously, I know that what's in front of you today is only for the primaries, but the basic problem still remains the same. The whole appeal of ranked choice voting is that it removes this exact spoiler effect that I've described above, and the only way that you can preserve that when electing multiple candidates at once is to have this transferability. You don't need it when you're electing 1 seat, but if you're doing multiple, removing transferability basically loses all of the point of RCV. You've basically just got a more expensive version of first past the post at that point. So transferring votes does not mean that some people's votes get counted twice. It means that no one's votes get wasted. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Would anyone else like to speak? We have opportunity for 3 more speakers. Anyone at this time? Okay, we will now go to the consent. There will be opportunity at the end of the meeting if anyone would like to speak. We will now go to the consent agenda. Ms. Thomas?
Consent agenda number 3, minutes, July 15th regular meeting, August 5th regular meeting, August 19th regular meeting, and August 26th and 27th special meetings. 4, resolution to appropriate Virginia Juvenile Community Crime Control Act grant, $452,704, second reading. 5, resolution for CDBG and home investment partnership programs. A is a resolution for program year 2023 to 2024 Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report, or CAPER, for the Community Development Block Grant and Home Investment Partnerships programs. B is a resolution to establish council priorities for program year 2025 to 2026. Number 6, an ordinance to repeal City Code Section 18-24B and 18-25F pursuant to the Ragged Mountain Reservoir Settlement Agreement, second reading. 7, resolution appropriating funds from the 2024 Energy Efficiency and Conservation Block Grant, $76,840, one of two readings. 8, resolution for state pass-through funding for the Tonsler League, $250,000, one of two readings. 9, resolution to appropriate fiscal year 2025 fire programs aid to locality funding, or the Fire Fund, $238,581, one of two readings. 10, a resolution to appropriate funds from the Department of Housing and Community Development Virginia Homeless Solutions Program Grant, $470,805, one of two readings. 11, ordinance for Stonehenge Avenue encroachment agreement, one of two readings.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt the consent agenda?
I move we adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
Second? Okay, can we vote, please? Motion passes 5-0. We'll now have the city manager's report. Mr. Sanders?
Yes, sir. Deputy City Manager Ratliff is online. He's under the weather, but he has an update that I wanted him to share in regards to SPCA.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sanders, and to the City Council. The City of Charlottesville, along with the County of Albemarle, continues to be in negotiations with the SPCA after the SPCA terminated the existing contract in March of this year. That termination takes effect March of 2025. There have been 4 or 5 negotiating sessions between the SPCA, the city, and the county, mainly designed around trying to understand kind of what the comprehensive needs are of the SPCA, as well as allowing the city and the county to kind of better understand their operations, what services they're providing that the city and the county are legally required to provide to our municipalities, as well as the other good work that the SPCA is doing kind of beyond that, which, by the way, there is a lot. It's a complex negotiation. There's a lot that goes into it, but we're continuing to be privileged to be meeting with them. Our next meeting is scheduled for this Friday, where those negotiations will continue, and I remain positive that an agreement can be reached by March, when the current contract expires. I do recognize the complexity of timing. Unfortunately, the SPCA runs on a calendar year budget, so I'm sure that they are eager to kind of learn what the city and the county's potential contribution will be in 2025, whereas the city and the county run on a July 1 fiscal year budget. So, we'll be making our first budget presentation to the City Council in April. So there are challenges here, but again, I remain confident that we're going to overcome those and have a renewed contract in March. If not a little bit sooner, that will hopefully be multi-year and positive for both parties.
Thank you. Just a couple other items I wanted to share that the end of August, Ravenna Water and Sewer Authority Board meeting, there was an annual reservoir update and a series of updates on matters that are important to us as a larger community. August is Water Quality Awareness Month. And as residents in the Charlottesville area probably have heard, there's been some challenges in other communities. We are not that community. We haven't had those issues, and just wanted to share that as an update on water quality and safety as a top priority for the city of Charlottesville and our partners. Also, just wanted to share there's been some interest in a land bank for the city of Charlottesville. I met with the Housing Advisory Committee also in August, doing some work in reviewing a proposed ordinance that they have brought forward at the request of council and myself. So we're right now taking that through a legal review, and the intention would be to bring that forward to allow council some time to think about establishing a land bank as an additional affordable housing tool. And then the last thing that I'll share is in regards to the issue of homelessness. I continue to focus time and attention on that particular item, that particular issue. It is complicated. There is no single solution. If there was one, I would have bought it by now, but it doesn't exist. It's very complicated. There are a number of issues that compound what we see individuals facing in our community, and we continue to work to try to address those. I have an internal working group. I've had external community conversations ongoing for the past few months. We are actively working with the Salvation Army and other partners, hopefully to establish the first time a permanent year-round low barrier shelter. We are near the possibilities of that being something that can happen. The earliest that could be delivered online would be next year. It would be sometime this next summer, if at all. That's a big question. It is something that takes a lot of time and attention for the parties who would have to run said facility to be able to do that. It is not within anyone's scope at this current time. So I have expressed to council in my conversations with them that is going to be a very costly initiative. It will require a significant annual investment for us to be able to support those individuals who are outside struggling, to give them the ability to have at least that first rung available to them. But a shelter is not the solution all by itself. It is just a rung on a ladder, and there is a lot of rungs on that ladder. There is more work that still needs to be done. We're engaging with nonprofit providers that are doing the work, and I'll be honest and say nonprofit providers that are receiving funds today are hearing things differently from us. And we're asking, how well are you doing the job that we ask you to do with the money that we gave you? And if it comes to having to make different recommendations, I will make those recommendations. We also are looking at establishing new relationships with additional partners, and we just want to make sure that we see this as a comprehensive approach. It requires that. No community has figured it out. Again, if there was a playbook, I would have bought it by now. It is really a local issue because it requires you to look at what is your landscape, how have you been doing the work, what more can you do, what are your interests, and what are you willing to pay for, to be perfectly honest. So I've recently had a first round of conversation with council. I think I gave you 15 different items on a list of things that we could consider doing. And they vary from inexpensive to extremely expensive. We're going to have another follow-up conversation on that. I'm working to get some details to finalize that. It'll probably be presented to the public in the form of a work session, so that's what I am considering right now to try to figure that out. But the goal would be to continue to focus attention on what it is that we as a community can do. City government can't do it all. So we're going to need a number of partners to join us in that work. So that's an update as to where we are and what we've been doing in that space.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Do we have any sense of when that work session might happen? Is this a couple months out? Or?
Could be the end of the month if you're inclined to have an extra meeting this month, or we'll be looking at next month.
Okay. Yeah, I'll just say from the initial conversations that we've had, I think it's promising. So I want to commend you and your staff for all the work that y'all are doing. I know that it's a lot of behind the scenes before it can come forward, so.
And I would just add, I know it seems like government can be not very responsive, and by nature, things take time when there's an immediate need that exists. But I think it's absolutely been probably the top priority for Deputy City Manager Ashley Marshall and City Manager Sam Sanders, as well as all other city staff, to really think and evaluate what are the things the city can actually do. And I can't speak for them, but it's probably nearly every day that you all are thinking about the issue in a serious way. But, it doesn't happen overnight. But just today on the consent agenda, there's a item for about $500,000, which was a grant staff pursued for homeless programs. Staff recently about a little less than $1 million for Premier Circle to provide permanent supportive housing for homeless individuals on an earlier schedule was approved then. So it is something that I think everyone sincerely cares about and is working on, but unfortunately, it doesn't happen overnight, even though the immediate needs continue to exist. But
Thank you all so much. We're now in action items, and the first action item is the ordinance for ranked choice voting. Staff, we got a report and presentation at a previous meeting, and it's been a lot of emails and discussion and meetings and things over the past 2 weeks, in particular the last five days over the Labor Day weekend, a lot of discussion and things. And so I want to thank my colleagues and Taylor and staff, for just accommodating all the different questions and discussion. Nothing was done with more than two of us, but it's a lot of discussion. So I don't think we have a presentation. I think it's up for us to discuss it. Now that you have some.
Correct. No, I don't have a presentation this evening.
Okay. So I think it's up for us to discuss it. So I'll start down here with you, Michael. Do you have any thoughts or?
I mean, not really. I mean, I feel like this is something we've discussed for a long time. I feel like we're kind of at a point where we just decide, do we do it or not do it? I think it's new. I think a lot of people who've raised, concerns, I think have done so in good faith, and there's a lot of questions about how implementation may look. I think Arlington has showed that it can be done. I think, I'm prepared to support moving forward with it. To me, the big question is, how do we ensure we've provided enough allocation and support for the voter education element of it, because I think it's a solvable problem, but my biggest concern is, as much as possible getting the number of voters who enter the booth and undervote because they weren't aware of what the new system was and didn't rank every candidate, getting that number as small as possible. And for us, if we evaluate implementation, looking at are there voter precincts where undervoting was higher than others, and using that to really target outreach to voters. Because I think that's my biggest concern, which I think is a solvable one, is just ensuring there's not disparities in undervoting with the new ranked choice voting in terms of people who just didn't rank every candidate they could have. That said, I mean, I think it's been discussed, for a long time at this point. I think, to me, the biggest goal would be if we can do it successfully locally, that, perhaps it builds awareness to start to do it in House of Delegates campaigns or statewide, like in Alaska or Maine, because I think that's where we would start to really see the biggest difference, which I think we've seen a significant change in who was elected in Maine and Alaska because of the system. And I think we could see a similar thing happen in Virginia. So that's where I am, but I do acknowledge, I think people who have concerns about it, I think it's still in good faith, because anytime you're making a change to the way an election works, I mean, it's a big deal. It's a very big deal. But I think Arlington shows that it can be done as long as we are really committed to doing the education and outreach. And I think it'll have a positive effect long term, and it'll probably take a couple election cycles before we, start to see, how it plays out in terms of changes and who's running for office, when people are running, what kind of coalitions they're trying to build, and whatnot. So anyway, that's where I am, prepared to, move forward with it tonight.
Thank you. Nat?
I'm also prepared to vote yes on this ordinance tonight. Echoing a lot of the same things Michael just said, but also knowing that for this to be a seed for a larger movement, Charlottesville is a really good place for it. We have, yes, we have an education campaign that we have to get ready for and implement so that we try and reach as many voters as possible, but Charlottesville is already a very engaged electorate that a lot of them have been, a lot of you all have been writing in to support this as well. So we already know that you're clued in and paying attention, but there's a lot of people that we still have to reach who might not be aware of what's going on right now, but will be hopefully excited by it once they do know what's going on, because it is going to hopefully, change. Charlottesville is also a good seed for it because we have a strong Democratic Party. So the primaries and the elections are hopefully and most likely going to be less controversial already than some other places. We are a less divisive community in that context. So it gives us space and time to work out kinks and to make sure that we do get everybody on board. But as it expands and grows into the larger electorate, we'll be able to see the changes that ranked choice voting supporters and proponents talk about, where the campaigns are less aggressive and more policy-based, or more conscientious and friendly, and hopefully better quality candidates and better quality policy comes out of that. So for all of that long-term benefit, I am excited that Charlottesville will be on kind of the forefront of this in Virginia.
Thank you. Lauren?
You want to go first, or you want to go?
I'll go.
Okay.
If this vote were only about ranked choice voting, I would have no qualms about voting yes, but it's not. It's about ranked choice voting and single transferable voting, which is the mechanism by which the ranked choice process takes effect in a multi-member district. I had a long talk just yesterday, in fact, with Sally Hudson, and one of the questions that she asked me that I kept sort of coming back to is, well, compare it to the present situation. How would this be better or worse than the present situation? And the example that someone gave a little while ago actually crystallized for me exactly what my concern is. The example that he gave was, supposing you had three people who were contesting for, I guess, for one seat, or for two seats, and one person gets 85% of the first place votes, and another person gets 15% of the second place votes, of the first place votes, and the person who's sort of the running mate of the guy who gets the 85% gets only second place votes. And that under, what he was suggesting was that under our current system, the 85% person and the 15% person would be elected. That's actually not true, because when everybody casts two votes, which is what happens right now, everybody casts two votes. If you had somebody like that, the person who would be the second choice would in fact get elected as the second choice. Let's take it a slightly different version to bring it into the reality of what would be next year. If we had three candidates for two spots and one person got 65% of the vote, of the first place votes, and the other person got 35% of the first place votes, and the person in the middle was everybody's second choice, in a place where people are voting for two candidates, that person would win. But in the single transferable vote scheme, that person would not win. And you can look at it. I mean, I've done a little bit of the math, and it gets kind of hairy to try to figure out after a while. And there's a reason why they have computers to do it. But the point is that the current situation would lead to two people with substantial majority support, and under the other scenario, you could get elected simply because you had 33.34% of the first place votes, and nobody else wanted you as the second place vote. You would still get elected. And that's the key difference, I think, between single transferable voting and instant runoff voting. As I've said before, I have, back in 2011, when I was the rules chair of the Charlottesville Democratic Party, we wrote a set of rules for what I would now recognize to be called a sequential instant runoff system. And basically what that meant was that we got one person elected, and that we didn't try to reapportion their excess votes because everybody had gotten a second vote and a third vote. It was actually a three-seat race. And we went through the process very neatly. I actually found the spreadsheet that I had constructed at the time, and you can see how it goes from one vote to the next vote to the next tabulation, and finally to the point where we get the last candidate chosen. I don't know if Ms. Smith is still here, but she will remember that she won that by about 38 votes or something on the final round of counting. And it worked pretty well as this sequential instant runoff system. That's not actually, and if I'd had time, I was going to go back and look at it and see if I could figure out how that would have worked under the single transferable vote, but I just didn't have time before today's meeting. The point being that you could, under single transferable voting, with everybody getting elected, basically the first two people to get the 33.3% plus one are elected. And so you could have two people, in theory, nominated on the first round who don't share anything with each other. They don't like each other. They don't get along well with each other. And it's simply not true. It's not accurate to say that under those circumstances that single transferable voting as a form of ranked choice voting is going to lead to greater civility, or that it's going to lead to greater moderation, or that it's going to lead to anything that causes anybody to do anything other than just guard their base. We see in national politics right now what happens when politicians guard their bases. It's not pretty. It's not something that I think we need to encourage. It's going to get worse in 2027 if we do this, because at that point you can get elected with 25.1% of the first place votes. And you could have all three people elected with 25.1% of the first place votes. The issue that I don't think, and when I've tried to explain all of this to people over the last few weeks, I don't know that I've found a single person who understands that the practical effect of this is that if you vote for the first person to get elected and your second transferable vote, which is only a fraction of a vote, you only get 1 and a fraction votes. You don't get 2 votes. And so you have relatively little influence on who the second choice is. The other thing, and they also continue to believe, one of the speakers tonight made mention of that in particular, where he talked about, he wanted to make sure that the candidates who won would reflect the true majority of the vote. And that's simply not true under single transferable voting. So the problem that I have with all of this is that although I completely agree with the notion of ranked choice voting and would be really, I think, quite pleased to do it under a sequential instant runoff voting system, I think most folks that I know that most folks that I've talked to don't understand how single transferable voting will actually work in terms of what that allocation looks like. And I haven't I mean, frankly, for me, it comes down to, do I vote for ranked choice voting knowing that the single transferable vote method that comes with it is not at all what I think is a very good idea, or do we stick with the current system? And the one thing that I really, really, really come back to is I don't think that it is appropriate for us to be asking, or to be, frankly, to be asking for the views and the responses of folks in the electorate who may not understand exactly how the system is working. They may understand it to be working, or to be planned to work, exactly the opposite as it would in fact work. I had suggested that we take some time, that we have a work session perhaps devoted specifically to that, so that people aren't just, hearing from me and other counselors, or that we're not just hearing from people who are the professional advocates for ranked choice voting, but there are a number of people out there who might be able to shed some light on some of these issues, and people can then make a more informed choice. And I'm not sure I'm not sure anybody else up here wants to do that, so what can I say?
Yeah, so I've spent a lot of time over the last couple days, I guess maybe this is a poor analogy, but it's sort of like when you're planning to get married, you're thinking to get married, you're ready to get married, and then it's time to get married, and you're like, well, I'm going to think about this hard for one more weekend, or one more week. And one of the things for me, frankly, that's been awkward about all this is that I do intend to run next year. I haven't made that decision finally, but at this point, that's my current plan. My wife and I still have to negotiate that, but that has been something that is, made this a bit more awkward for me. A few things that I will say. We have been talking about this ever since I came on council, and because I really prize consensus, I sort of felt like there was a consensus about RCV. I had always thought what was being presented was the STV version of it with the cookie videos and the giraffe videos and all the other cute videos. So from my perspective, I do think that's at least what I had understood we were talking about. And because I felt there was consensus across, we've had, Sina was here, Ms. McGill, and Ms. Puryear were here, and we've had a number of folks coming in and out, I guess. And so I've always said, well, this seems like this is consensus, so I think that's good, and I am a member of the Democratic Party and supported that. The thing that I got hung up over, and I think I'm there okay now, this distinction between certification and approval, I've decided to quit worrying about it because it seems like I'm confident that the various folks that have been involved, that Ms. Hudson, for example, referenced earlier, and that when Ms. Yowell has mentioned as well, that this process has been approved, that it's robust. I'm confident that the data that comes out of this will be accurate. So that took me a little bit of time to work through, and I appreciate those who were patient enough to help me think through that. I will admit, like most things, particularly as someone who studied a little philosophy in my life, that there are value judgments built into this, like there is in any sort of choice of this kind. And I think, Councilor Snook, you've been able to point those out. I think that they are the sorts of things that reasonable people of goodwill can disagree about. And for me, I don't really have super strong feelings about them. I mean, I can see both sides of those things, and but the one piece of that has caused me, again, over the last few days, some giving me a little bit of a pause was, I think consent is important, getting the electorate to know what we're putting, even though we've got the authority to do this, to make sure they're comfortable with us doing it. And as I've thought about that, I will reflect that from my perspective. I mean, Juan walks every street in the city, so he knows everybody, but I don't. And it's difficult for me sometimes to tell, well, what does the electorate really want about any given topic? I think the only thing that I really felt confident that I knew what the electorate was, and it was 50-50, was the zoning ordinance, because it was so much that came out of that. So in this case, I've been thinking, well, do we do an advisory referendum, or do we do some sort of do we have public hearings? And I feel like, though those are good ideas in theory, we've been talking about this for a long time, and it's created an expectation that we're going to do it. And I also feel like that, thanks to the advocacy of Ms. Hudson and the sort of coalition that has surrounded her work in the past and in the present, I do feel like that there is a strong coalition of folks who are aware enough about this, and this is a high information electorate here, that they do want something like this, and they would be comfortable with me voting for it. So I say all that to say that I've kind of worked through in my mind the consent part of this. I think that I'm comfortable with that. And then, what this has been framed as is an experiment. Maybe that's too radical of a word, but it's something that we've got. It's in the law that we can do. We sort of know we do know what we're going to do. And we're going to try it for the next primary, and we're doing it for a primary with the Democratic Party. I said, yeah, we're in favor of this. So I think we're going to have to see what happens and iterate. Maybe we come through this and we say this was terrible and we decide not to do it, or maybe we say it's great. But I think, as everyone has pointed out, I think what I would suggest is that we vote on this, we say we're going to do it, and then we go ahead and plan on having a robust set of meetings where we explain to people, right, this is what we're going to do in addition to the actual outreach. So I plan to vote for it. It's taken me a while to sort of get my brain around it. I don't dismiss your concerns, Lloyd. I think As always, you're very thoughtful, but at this point, I'm going to vote for it.
Thank you, and I appreciate all of my colleagues on council with their comments on this. I have also been tossing and turning on this since we last discussed it. Unlike Brian, I have not made a decision whether I'm going to run or not. I have to have that discussion with the missus and myself before I even start to ponder. But I haven't made the decision, so I didn't look through this with the lens of how is it going to impact me if I'm going to run in the next June, in less than a year, really. I looked at it as like, because, I get a sense of a lot of the input and things we get have been from population that doesn't look like me, and I'm concerned about, I want to know how it's going to impact the community, particularly of low wealth and of color. What is it going to look like? And that's why I was concerned about two things primarily, and that was the public input kind of process and what that would look like, and the approval and certification. And, one of those conversations I had this weekend was with Lloyd, and he kind of helped me work through the certification and approval, and I'm okay with that at this point now. The other part was the public input process, and we got a lot of emails this weekend, actually today over the last week, and I understand how that works. Many of them said the same thing, and I understand that it can generate a lot of support for it. I think that first I will support this, but I would like that to work with supporters of this so that we can work with the council and staff to get a wide range of public input process that same type of energy and effort to reach out beyond those who are in your current network, because this is something that we're going to have to work with those individuals that may not really understand it. We need that kind of professional effort to help us reach those individuals, and I think it's going to be essential. And that being said, I will support this. So, any other comments on this, or
do we have to vote for this separate from the?
Yes.
I think that we should.
Two separate actions.
Yes, two separate.
So if there's no other discussion, can I get a motion?
I would move for the ordinance 12A to adopt ranked choice voting, RCV, as the voting method for the June 2025 City Council primary election.
Second.
If there's no other discussion, can we vote? Okay, the motion passes 4-1. There's also a resolution to appropriate resources to help with the staff to address
I move the resolution to appropriate $26,460 for ranked choice voting.
Second.
Further discussion? If not, can we vote? Okay, thank you so much, Taylor.
Taylor, thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is an ordinance for the city code to extend public safety supplement retirement benefits to EMS-only employees enrolled in the defined benefit plan. This is the first of two reading. We have Scott Carpenter. Oh, hey. He's there.
Mayor, councilors, city staff, good evening. I'm your Deputy Chief of Operations for the Fire Department, Scott Carpenter. And really what's before you is a completion of the work that started in 2015 when the department took on EMS transports. Much like a lot of other departments and agencies across the country, we've been struggling a little bit with retention, which has kind of brought this to light. Recruitment and retention, which has brought this to light. To come to work for the fire department, you've got to be an EMT and you've got to be a firefighter. Since we took on EMS transports, we did not provide any input or any conduit for an individual to come work for the fire department that was just really passionate for providing EMS service. So with that, We've been on this 2-year road to get to the point where we are today, and we're almost crossed that finish line, and hopefully with your help, we'll get there to allow our department to open up to those that are passionate about EMS, but not necessarily want to participate in firefighting activities.
Yeah, I remember this coming to the, good evening. I
Okay.
remember this coming to the Retirement Commission.
Correct.
So my understanding is basically there's no net sort of
At this
cost
time,
at this point that we
yeah,
expect?
Yeah, at this time, while we don't know the total economic gain or loss from this, because we're still in negotiations with the union over what this is going to look like in terms of budgeting and salary and benefits. We're not asking for any new FTEs, so this is really converting some FTEs that we have now to fill this role.
So assume y'all looked at it and do we have any idea what the financial impact is? I mean,
So there's no increase, as Scott just mentioned, there's no increased financial impact because this is using the current allocation to the fire department. What it's allowing him to do is to shift personnel around and use existing dollars to do so, and give the opportunity for someone to just be EMS versus both, which we do consider as an equity initiative. It allows someone to continue to stay employed with the fire department that may not necessarily want to run into a burning building, but they help somebody outside the building. So I don't know, I just simplified your whole job, but that's not exactly what I was doing. But again, it was just to point out that this is about allowing people to stay with us who may have a different reason for needing to.
Well, to jump on what Mr. Sanders is also saying is, I think that it also provides us some different conduits to recruit and retain. One of those examples was with the EMT program at K-Tech. As this program continues, that could then be a conduit so that we could employ some local talent here at the fire department.
any other questions or comments? This is first or two reading, but I think we can waive the second reading if we want to approve it tonight, if we would like.
I'm happy to do that, or just move it to the consent agenda. Is there any rush?
Yeah. Okay, so if there's no issues, then we'll put it on the consent agenda for the September 16th meeting.
Okay.
Thank you so
Thank you
much.
for your time.
Appreciate your work and service to the city. The next item on the agenda is the resolution to approve the 7th amended agreement between Charlottesville Supplemental Rental Assistant Program.
Good evening, Mayor, council members.
Good evening.
Before you is a resolution supported by staff to approve the 7th Amendment to the grant agreement with the Charlottesville Redevelopment Housing Authority for the administration of the Charlottesville Supplemental Rental Assistance Program, SISRAP for short. It's a local voucher program created by the city. It was first initiated in our fiscal year 2017-2018, and it has been operational for about several years, providing rental assistance to extremely low income and low income households in the city, specifically targeting those households earning less than 60% of the area median income as determined by HUD. The program has consistently supported an average of 70 households per year, providing critical housing security, particularly for those at or below 30% of the AMI, which aligns with the Affordable Housing Plan's funding targeting commitment. And just to highlight a few more performance highlights, and not to steal CRHA's thunder, hopefully they are online with us to present any further details. But this program has had steady growth, with an increase from about 67 participants to 75 participants in fiscal year 23. So we've added on average plus 8 households a year. It continues to prioritize vulnerable populations with a minimum of 15 subsidies dedicated to homeless households or persons experiencing homelessness, and up to about 40 subsidies for participants in local self-sufficiency programs. SISRAP has also supported households transitioning from self-sufficiency, with notable increase in this program year over year. With regards to budget details, the city has already allocated $900,000. This was part of the CIP and budget approval for this fiscal year. So this is funding that's already allocated, approved. This resolution would be allowing us to budget, to draw down that amount to fund the next fiscal year for this iteration of the amendment. While this amendment does not include or introduce any programmatic changes, staff has been in discussion and collaborating with CRHA with regards to looking at future considerations. For example, SISRAP was originally designed for a 2-year cycle. So with that said, CRHA has indicated or is exploring strategies for transition plans for households that have been on the voucher for longer than 2 years. Additionally, CRHA is exploring various enhancements to meet the needs of participants, including leveraging new data tools and improving communications and reporting. And if CRHA is online, I can hand it over to them to answer any further details about their presentation that's attached in your packet.
Hello.
So I guess I'm it.
No.
Oh,
Good
he's here?
evening,
Okay.
Council.
Hey, John.
All right.
Yes, we have 2 staff members. It's me and another staff member. Good evening, Council. My name is John Sales. I'm the Executive Director of the Housing Authority. Happy to be with you this evening. Also have Zoe Paraku. She is the HCB Director, and she also runs and administers the SISRAP program. And so she will be presenting to you tonight.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Zoe Paraquo, and I will be presenting on the Charlottesville Rental Assistance Program. Just a little background. On June 19, 2017, the city approved the creation of the SISRAP program, and the grant agreement was executed in 2018, and the first voucher was issued in April 2018. So I'll be looking through the data and the demographic and the program effectiveness within the from 2018 to 2024. Next slide, please. So some of our referrals sources are from, started with the CRHA waitlist program. We've also received referrals from the social services, PVCC, the Coalition for Homelessness, and recently we've also gotten agencies asking to be referral agency, such as the Home to Hope organization, the Blue Ridge Area Coalition for Homelessness, and the Department of Human Services as well. Next slide. So here is the data about on the AMI. As you can see, in 2021, we had 54 participants who came into the program between the 0 and 30% of our AMI, 59 for the 2022 fiscal year, and 65 for the 2023, and a total of 75 in the 2023 fiscal year. Next slide. So participants, this is the data for where the participants reside. Typically when participants are referred to the program, we encourage them to look in the city first before exploring housing in the county. And as you can see here in fiscal year 2021, it was 37 in the city and 37 in the fiscal year of 2022 and 39 in 2023. And in the county, there were 30 participants who lived in the county in 2021. For fiscal year 2022, there were 32, and for fiscal year 2023, there were 36. Next slide, please. So recertification. The purpose of recertification is to ensure that participants continue to meet eligibility requirements and their subsidy amounts are accurately calculated based on their income, family compositions, or other relevant factors. This process typically occurs annually, but can happen frequently if there are significant changes in their household composition. The recertification is to help maintain the integrity of the program and ensure that limited resources are allocated appropriately to those in need of assistance. So our highest months of recertifications are November, and the steady months are February, April, June, and September, and the low months are usually March and August. Next slide. So for participants to be eligible for this program, they have to be either experiencing homelessness or working with a self-sufficiency program. So we identify the individuals who are experiencing homelessness and the resources that are there. We partner with those agencies that are helping them with finding resources, and then they refer them to a program, and we put them in the intake process. Next slide. So our top resources, referral sources were HCV in the year 2021, which we got 120 referrals. From the Department of Social Services, we got around 63 to 73 referrals. And for PVCC, we got 17 to 20 participants referral annually. Next slide. So the program has increased since we started, and in the year 2021, we had a total of 67 participants. Fiscal year 22, we had 69 participants, which is a 3% increase. In 2023, the increase went to 8.7%, and in the fiscal year 2024, we had a slight decrease because of participants graduating from the program successfully, or participants who had moved out of the jurisdiction, or participants who had program violations. Next slide. So, like I mentioned earlier, in order to be eligible for the CSRAP program, participants have to be working with a self-sufficiency program or experience homelessness. So the participants who have been working with this self-sufficiency program, we have seen a success in their participation in the program, enabling them to find jobs and resources that they're able to, to encourage them to, get away from housing assistance. Next slide, please. As Anton mentioned earlier, we have been discussing about the eligibility period. So one of our goals is to ensure that to build a stronger relationship with the partners that refer participants to our program in order to encourage them to become more self-sufficient. So we are looking at some participant end dates, which, as was mentioned earlier, that we had agreed upon 2 years, and so working closely with this referral agency and finding other resources that these participants need to become self-sufficient and ultimately transition out of housing assistance will enable us to graduate more participants successfully and therefore create room for other participants to also get assistance with this program. Next slide. So one of the things that we want to introduce is our reporting system. So Yardi is a popular software system used by public housing agencies in managing various aspects of the program. For example, landlord and tenant management, where Yardi tracks tenants and landlord information, including lease agreements, housing inspections, and compliance documents. It also looks at income calculations and subsidy, where Yardi automatically calculates rent portions, tenant income, and subsidy amounts, ensuring accurate and timely payments. Also, in terms of compliance, Yardi helps in streamlining that process. And also, Yardi is a great digital document storage where we can have all our documents, record keeping organized and accessible for any auditing or reporting. Overall, Yardi simplifies the administration of the program, enabling us to operate efficiently and maintain compliance with the program. Next slide. So CSRAP has shown consistent growth in the fiscal year from 2019 to 2024, with increasing participant numbers, diverse referral sources, and improving self-sufficiency rates. The program demonstrates its effectiveness in supporting community members, and we will be focusing on strengthening partnership with top referral sources in addressing those needs to enhance the program and the impact with reaching the community. Thank you.
Thank you, CRJ.
Go
ahead, John.
Would now like to open this up to any questions from the city council. I will say the drop in numbers are due to referrals and the changing in staff at some of the agencies. And so, like Antoine mentioned earlier, we're going to be meeting to talk about how we better communicate and increase the number of referral agencies, because there are a lot of homeless agencies that are working in this field that would like to be able to refer clients, but we have a limited referral basis based upon the agencies that are identified in the agreement. And so we do need to work on that, and we need to understand what each agency's criteria is for participating in the programs, because there's nothing worse than referring someone to an agency and then them going to the agency and that agency not being able to help because they don't meet all the criteria to be in their program. And so CRHA, as the agency that's administering the program, we need to know exactly what the programs require, and at this point we don't know that.
Thank you. So are there questions or comments from council on this?
I've got one question, and maybe I'm just confused about something. I noticed you said that roughly, or the slide showed that roughly half of the participants are county residents, and I'm wondering how county residents fit into this picture. Why are we, what's happening so that we end up paying for them?
They didn't start off as county residents. They started off as city residents but couldn't find housing in the city, so they ended up moving to the county. But everyone starts off in the city, and we have a requirement for them to search in the city, but due to the number of units that are available and the lower payment standard compared to the market payment standard, folks are pushed to the county.
So as long as they start off in the city, you'll follow them wherever they end up having to go?
As they can't go any further than Albemarle County.
Okay.
That is the only jurisdiction that is also approved. Unlike the voucher program where folks can go further than Albemarle County, we have some that are in Greene, we have some that are in Nelson County, and so we have some that are a little further out.
Does Albemarle have any similar fund?
Say it one more time.
Does Albemarle have any similar program to CSRAP?
Not that I know of.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions or comments on this?
I guess just as a procedural question, I take it there's no amendments to the previous agreement currently, and then two, it was mentioned possible changes in the future. I assume those don't need to happen. We would need to wait until next year to do those. Those could happen at any time, or?
Some of the programmatic changes that we are exploring, like with regards to the technology, for example, that would be on CRHA to, in terms of their deployment of that, will be within their capacity and prerogative. There might be, if there's a substantive change to the agreement, like structural change, we would need to bring that back before you at the next amendment or iteration of the program.
Okay.
Okay. Did we want to, if there's no other questions, if we supportive of this, we can, move it to the consent agenda on the 16th?
Consent agenda is fine.
Okay, thank you. Thank you,
Councilman. Thank you,
John.
John.
And the young lady that presented, I'm sorry. Yeah, Zoe. The next item is a resolution considering sidewalk waiver for 2117 Ivy Road.
So good evening, Mayor and members of council.
Good evening.
I'm Dan O'Connell, a city planner with MDS, introducing a sidewalk waiver request for 2117 Ivy Road. This is pretty similar to another sidewalk waiver request for the MACA development that I brought before you a couple meetings ago. The PUD development plan, the rezoning request, the plan for 2117 Ivy has not changed since you approved it in the beginning of this year. The layout is basically the same as the development plan that you saw as part of that decision. However, we do need to have this separate waiver request because this project is vested under our old subdivision ordinance regulations. So the waiver request is only for the easternmost portion of the property's frontage on Copley Road, basically from their parking garage entrance up to the property line that is adjacent to the Copley Road Bridge. But,
There's no sidewalk there now, right?
correct. But happy to take any questions that you may have.
Yeah. Any questions on?
I mean, essentially, they need this to be able to do the project.
I doubt it.
Not certain if it's completely undoable, but
guess
their
it's
current
just
layout
how much
does show the sidewalk as, the public's
such
portion
a-
of the sidewalk is basically ending at that garage entrance.
Say that again.
The public, they will be providing publicly maintained sidewalk along their frontage with Ivy Road and a portion of Copley Road along that intersection. And then there will be their parking garage entrance off of Copley, and then beyond that, towards the bridge, there will be no sidewalk. There is some, I think, just a kind of a private area for machinery that's kind of walled off, but that would not be publicly accessible or city-maintained sidewalk.
Okay.
As I look at the photo on page 211 of the packet, which is a photo looking north on Copley, sidewalks on the right, no sidewalk on the left, am I correct that the part that they want a waiver from is from where that, basically where the driveway would be north to the bridge?
Correct.
Okay. Which we had talked about at the time as being a sidewalk to nowhere, essentially, because there's not a sidewalk on that side of the bridge, and there isn't going to be a sidewalk on that side of the bridge. And so the question is, do we want people to have to bail out and move across the street up at the bridge where you've got a hill problem as well as a turning problem? Or do you want to have them make that change further down where at least you have better sight lines?
Right. And we did look at this administratively, the city traffic engineer and the city bicycle and pedestrian coordinator. We looked at the layout and we thought at the time that bringing people down towards the intersection where the developers are going to be making those intersection improvements, those bicycle boxes and the pedestrian striping would be a better situation than trying to have them cross further up the road.
Well, speaking as one who was sort of opposed to this project in the first place, I'll just say this doesn't bother me.
Yeah, and I guess, obviously, this is not the most important pedestrian improvement as part of this project, but I guess the only way it would matter is long-term, thinking about how UVA may develop that corridor, 10, 15 years from now. Does that connectivity become feasible, at some point down the road? I don't know. But I guess the only question I have is maybe procedural in a way, is, as I read it, the staff recommendation is kind of agnostic as to whether we do or don't grant the waiver, and it says that Public Works Engineering has confirmed there are no hardships preventing the installation of a new sidewalk for the location in question. So help me understand what that means, and if there weren't any hardships, why it would be waived. Is that just kind of a technical determination based on the ordinance that leads that to be the recommendation? Or?
Sure. Engineering reviewed this, and basically there's nothing physically preventing them from building a sidewalk there. It may be a little difficult to try and get it up the hillside towards that bridge, but they could, in principle, build it. My perspective was basically there's not much of a benefit to building it or not building it. It's sort of whether you want people walking that extra 100 feet of sidewalk that doesn't really connect to anything and would only really connect to the intersection across that drive entrance.
Right. And I guess practically, people will just cross earlier at that intersection, get over to the other side, and then navigate from that side, as opposed to, I guess, having the crosswalk be a little bit further up.
Yeah, Michael, if you look like on Google Maps, the north side, or rather the west side of the Copley Bridge.
Right.
There's no sidewalk there.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess they just get up, all that would happen is they just get up there, they would go north and then jig-jog over like they do now.
Right, and I think in internal discussion with the traffic engineer, we thought it would be a bit better than trying to maybe incentivize people to jaywalk across that road, that it would be better to kind of bring them south towards the intersection in the first place.
Okay. Makes
Yeah.
sense.
No, I was just going to say, that makes sense. I mean, the only thing I could think of is just long-term, if this connectivity get added at some point, 15 years from now on that side. But that's unknowable, and I guess doesn't have to be resolved in this project right now. So,
And that would involve either widening the bridge at great expense or a road diet, which would
right.
then probably make this road not useful for cars anyway, and then the whole thing would become pedestrianized and you wouldn't need the specific sidewalk, theoretically.
So yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem particularly important, to be honest.
Yeah. So I'm supportive of the waiver. Any other further discussion? Can I get a motion, please?
I'd move approval of the resolution.
Second.
Can we vote, please? Thank you. Motion passes 5-0. So we're now at the opportunity, well, before we go to the second community matter, I have a statement to read concerning our closed statement, our closed meeting. And this is a press release we'll be releasing tomorrow. Mr. Stroman has decided to retire. He has been exonerated from the claims that prompted his administrative leave. Council appreciates his service as city attorney, including his work on the city's development code, his leadership in defending the city in litigation, including an ongoing lawsuit defending the development code, his work on real estate matters, including the Avon Levy acquisition earlier this year, his efforts in assisting council with formation of a successful General Assembly legislative program, and his commitment to ensuring the city's compliance with the Virginia Public Procurement Act and the city's procurement ordinance. And we wish him well in his retirement. This is what I will be saying tomorrow in the statement. Attorney Stroman will be stating that I'm grateful for the opportunity to have served the city of Charlottesville as a city attorney. The array of legal issues on which I was privileged to work were challenging, important to the continued prosperity of the city, and in many cases, cutting edge. While I look forward to the retirement, I will miss the practice of local government law to which I have devoted most of my career. I wish council, city administration, the residents of Charlottesville well. So, are there other public matters? Yes, sir.
I just wanted to say thank you to all of you. Mr. Wade, thank you in particular for highlighting the need for ongoing education. I can promise that the enthusiasm for this work doesn't stop here. We've been at this for years, and we've got years left in them. Councilor Oshrin, I want to thank you for being a practical, focused partner at every step in this process. You have moved the ball forward in concrete ways, in so many ways, over the last few months. Councilor Payne, you've been a true believer at this for years, and we would not be here without your focused voice on council as well. Councilor Pigston, I want to thank you for the sincerity and care with which you treat every decision that comes before you. I know these ones aren't easy, and you get a lot of them, so thank you. And Councilor Snook, I want to thank you for being a member of the loyal minority. I think it's a critical part of how government works. Smart people who don't see the world the way you do keep us all honest. Some people don't believe this, but I really enjoyed serving with Rob Bell. We were on a lot of committees together, and in both the majority and the minority, I could count on him checking my details. That's one of the reasons why I support ranked choice voting. I want a dedicated path for sizable minority groups who don't see the world the way that I do onto council, because I think we all make decisions better that way. I want to thank Mr. Sanders for shepherding the broader process and for tolerating what we do to your inbox every week, especially the Deputy City Manager, Mr. Ratliff, of course, our dedicated registrar, Taylor Yole, who has done all of this amid managing what could be the highest stakes election of all of our lives right now. And I want to especially thank Jim Nix, who is taking a well-deserved vacation, which he doesn't do very often, who has done a lot of work at this over the years as well. Victories always have 1,000 fathers, and I want to thank all of you for being one of them, so thanks.
Thank you, Sal.
Thank you.
Mr.
Echo all of Sally's words. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much. You are not alone in this. This is just the beginning of the hard work that the community will be engaged with in being educated, learning about it, and then doing the evaluation of how does the public feel about this. That way we have a really good understanding, as like you said, Councilor Pinkston, as we experiment with this. So thank you all.
Thank you. Other comments? There being no other actions, we stand adjourned. Thank you.